absolutely. I think that will be something we will come back to during this conversation. That as you get older, you become more and more aware, especially if you're a good learner, you become more and more aware of all of the stuff you don't know. Like when you're younger, it's like, man, I know all of this stuff. Always something new to learn, right? So that's really good. Anybody else? Small talk? Anything? Okay, cool. So we'll get started then officially. So the way I typically like to do these types of speaking engagements is do a very brief and quick background on myself, who I am, what I do. But I would prefer to spend most of the time just doing Q&A, so more of a seminar base. So if you all have had seminar classes, those were always my favorite in college because I always got the most out of it, right? So I don't really want to talk about what's relevant to me. I want to talk about what's relevant to you all and questions you have. I'll try to get everybody engaged with the conversation, and we'll just go from there. What's up, guys? You made it. You get to sit on the floor. Right here. The floor of shame. I'm just teasing. 20 minutes, okay. I might throw Bree into the mix just a little bit. Everybody say hi, Bree. Hi. So Bree's my general manager. She basically runs Soccer Genome. Really quick background on me. So I was a graduate of the college before it was Judson College at Southeastern. They didn't know what to call us, so they just called us the college at Southeastern. I came there after 2 years at NC State, 1 year at Wake Tech, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was obsessed with soccer. Whenever I was supposed to be studying for a Spanish exam or an economics exam, I would be playing indoor soccer till 2 in the morning. So that's what I would do. And so I ended up at Southeastern due to a come to Jesus moment with my father about student loan debt. Very painful, kind of like coming to that moment where it's like, holy cow, I'm gonna have to repay all this money for a degree that I don't even know if I'm gonna use. And so I was like, I've got to get out of this setting. And so I ended up stumbling upon Southeastern. I'd always been the type of person that wanted to know why I believed what I believed. And so I did have a little bit of an appeal towards like, hey, I would love to learn theology. I'd love to learn some Greek and Hebrew. I'd love to learn some hermeneutics. Even though I never had a strong pull to full-time ministry. And after a semester at Southeastern, I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly where I needed to be. So during my time at Southeastern, I had started a business called Soccer Genome with a buddy of mine. We were both at Southeastern at the time. He approached me and said, hey, I'm coaching some kids on the side. You're coaching some kids on the side. Let's start a business. And I said, of course, how hard could that be? And so we started Soccer Genome. So this is 2011. I was 22 years old, still in college. Had just gotten married to my high school sweetheart. We got married in 2011 and had no idea that this is what SG was going to be. It was just more of like I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I might as well do something in soccer because people are willing to pay me money for it. After about a year to 2 years into it, I was like, oh man, like I'm good at this. People are wanting to pay me a lot of cash. I'm a starving college student. This is great. I'm going to do this even more. And so I just kind of kept dabbling. And then I want to say probably 2013, 2014, I was like, okay, if we're going to go after this, I've got to go all in. So I quit my other part-time job and I went all in on full-time coaching. I think we were living off probably like $24,000 a year, so barely making rent. We were living in the duplexes at Southeastern, then we moved to Flaherty, lived there for like 2 or 3 years. Fast forward to 2015, took out a lease on this building, which was a massive risk at the time. So again, I think I'm probably 26 years old at this point, $500,000 liability for this lease. So pretty significant risk at that age. And we basically should have died multiple times as a business during that period. And so we barely survived. And we just kept plugging along. And I'm going to fast forward over we'll go 2015 to 2025. Over the course of that decade, every mistake you can make in business we made. Had issues with partners, had issues with debt, had issues with systems and processes, had issues with ego, had issues with not taking ownership for mistakes, had issues with not giving credit to people who did stuff well, had issues with retaining coaches. So any mistake you can make in business, we made. And then I would say a really big turning point, we survived COVID just barely. Does anybody know how many gyms? We're basically like a soccer gym. Anybody know how many gyms basically permanently closed because of COVID? It's somewhere in the range of like 55 to like 70% of all boutique, small, like single owner gyms closed permanently. So they got decimated. And so we barely survived. There's a 5.5, 6 month period where we lost, I think it was like $60,000 in cash paying rent for this building when we weren't allowed by the government to come run training in here. 2021, I bought out my last partner who had started the business with me. We didn't get along. Absolutely brutal buyout process that took probably 12 months, 13 months. And thankfully, the Lord had brought a business mentor in my life who bought in as a partner with me. He's still my partner, but he's more of an investor mentor. He's not active in the business. The two of us walked through that process together, was able to exit him. And then I would say the next big moment was we brought Bree on board. So Bree was massive, I would say, to the success that we're at. So since she's been here, we've grown over 20% every year since 2022, Coach? 2022. So Bree at the time was playing pro ball for the Courage, the NWSL team in the area. She just happened to drive by our little Podunk sign and was like, these guys need help. And sent us an email. I was like, hey, I got some free time. Can I coach? And we said, absolutely. But under her leadership, we've grown tremendously. I've grown tremendously as well, so it's been really cool. Evan actually grew up in SG, so I coached Evan in high school as a freshman?
Yeah, freshman and sophomore.
Yeah, so I met Evan when he was 13, 22 now?
23.
23, Coach. Sheesh. So I've known Evan for well over a decade. He's one of my full-time employees as well. And so that is like a very fast overview of kind of my background, the kind of 15 years of SG of where we're at. I'm 36 now. I turn 37 next week. So really quickly, I know that the class you all are in is Business as Mission. Yes? Everybody nod their head? Yes? Just want to make sure I got that right. So one thing that I would say that really has shaped how I do business, one thing that y'all will recognize as you move on to business in the world is that there's not one way to do business. There's a limitless, endless amount of opportunity and ways to do business. But I would say for me, one of the most impactful pieces that Southeastern played in how I have built Soccer Genome, the things that we've prioritized, the team that we try to attract, is to build a community where people are seen and known and heard. We happen to do that through soccer, but there are tons of people around you every day that you may take for granted that potentially feel unseen, unheard, unknown. And my training at Southeastern through both theological training, but also I know I've mentioned to Dr. Craig and I've mentioned to Seth Bible multiple times, one of the most impactful things for me as an entrepreneur was my training in the Great Books program, which used to be called History of Ideas. That training in understanding the ideas that have shaped our culture that we take for granted, they're things that have shaped you all in ways that you probably aren't even aware of, that are coming from these great thinkers and these great works and these influences that they've had, that I've always felt has given me an unfair advantage of understanding people. And no matter what business you go into, you're in the business of what? What?
People.
Interacting with people. And so adding a spiritual dimension to that of not just like being at work with people and understanding why people do what they do, the incentives and motives, but having a spiritual dimension of like, hey, the people I'm working with are made in the image of God, right? They have intrinsic worth and value. How can we serve well? How can we care well? How can we deliver the best product and service that we possibly can to bless them? And brands, the number of W-2 full-time employees we have, based on Bree's age and gender, she represents like 2% of females her age running a business this size in the country. There's 32 million small businesses in the United States. If you ran through how many of those business hits all of those credentials and also has a female that's 28 running it, it's like 2%. So Bree is a boss. So this is a great opportunity to ask Bree some questions before she has to leave and go back to work. Any questions? Yes.
What is her background like?
Why don't you ask her?
What is your, yeah.
Here, Bree, you can sit down right here so you don't have to stand. So one thing, it was funny. So I mentioned this talk to Bree a week or two ago, and she was like, what am I going to talk about? I don't know the answers. And one thing that was so funny to me is this is one of the coolest things about business and entrepreneurship. You don't always realize that there's some areas of life that validate themselves. And what I mean by that is if you are running a business and you're running a business that is generating a certain amount of revenue, your credentials are completely irrelevant. Like you don't like have to have an MBA. There's a difference between a person who's gone to school and got an MBA and never run a business versus someone who actually knows how to run a business, which is Bree. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go through all the ladies. So what's your name? Eleanor. Eleanor, can you think, and while I'm asking Eleanor, because she's going first, all the rest of the ladies better start thinking about stuff. Eleanor, think about what you potentially are interested or passionate about with business that either you're unsure of or you are sure of or would be a relevant question to ask Bree, because she's a few years ahead of you, but she's doing pretty awesome stuff. Or I can come back to you. If someone already knows, like, hey, I want to ask Bree quick. Oh, I love that. She plays soccer, by the way, coach. Yeah, I told her to put an application in.
How do you know which opportunities to take? So like when you were driving down the road and you saw this place, like how did you know?
That is a great question. What a great question.
Honestly, I like just for the love of the game I have. I just saw an opportunity where I was like, oh, this is a cool place right down the road where I lived. And so I was just like, I had a lot of free time on my hands, so I was just seeing if there was any opportunities within Taylor, if there was a coaching position that I could have.
Yes. Kate.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask, how do you go about hiring people?
Great question again. Every question, so good.
Like, as you had said, their love for the game, or do you also consider like the technicalities of it, like if they actually play soccer and all that?
I honestly think it's like the person they are that comes first. So like our big thing is seeing, heard, known. So if they can kind of show that within the kids and the staff, then I think that's like number one priority. And then the soccer piece comes next.
But we do require that you can play soccer. Yeah. Why do y'all think that's so important? So the relational, personal component, character component before the technical component, because any industry, any job you do has a technical component, right? Y'all got that? Yeah. Why do you think that is, and that's for the whole group?
Because you can teach a skill.
You can teach a skill, yeah.
It's difficult to teach personality.
Mm-hmm.
Carry yourself well.
Yeah, good. What parts of the daily kind of rhythm of work are touched by the character and personal attributes of the employee or manager?
Are you saying?
I'm following up your question. Yeah, I want to drive deeper into that. So, like, how many of you already have a job? Okay, great. So this is super relevant, right? So I'm leading you on with this question. What parts of your daily life in work are touched by your character? What parts of the daily job?
Specifically with me,
Sure.
it's how I carry myself with my coworkers. So
Yeah.
I shine Christ onto them.
Yeah.
And so from a stressful environment, it's not always like, it's very difficult to remain cool all the time, but maintaining a joyful attitude.
Yeah.
And then I would also say just in your care for others.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a heart that is servant oriented,
Mhm.
like wanting to serve others, that stands out. And I
Yeah,
think that's a good service.
That's a great answer. The answer I was going for was just like, it touches everything. You know what I mean? Like, what were you saying?
Growing up, I had coaches that could play the sport really well, but they couldn't teach how
Yeah.
to do it because there was no relational aspect. When they were teaching us, it wasn't like they were trying to foster a community within the team. It was more of like, how can I, like the mentality of my team was like, how can I be the best player on my team?
Yeah.
And my coaches didn't foster a community of like playing together, like you're a team. So I think having a good personality to build community within the team that you're coaching is really important, because if you can't do that, then your team is not even going to do well.
Yeah, that's great. How did that make you feel?
It was in another language.
Where was this?
I lived in India.
India, okay.
Yeah, so that was also hard too because I had to learn the language. And then also, like, I was the only white kid that played on my team, and only girl team in my whole league, so we only played against guys. So it was really interesting for me to like learn how to play football and like not, let it get to me, because it was like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. That's great. Great point. Yes.
Question for Bree.
Yes. Keep going.
When to take charge versus when to delegate?
Ooh, another great question. We're 3 for 3.
Let's see. I think delegation comes where it's like a teaching moment. So like if it's like if you have the time and capacity to teach, then I think delegation is a very useful tool. And then I think when it's like a higher priority, like where it would affect families and players, and that's probably when you would need to step in.
That, and half the time we don't know.
Yeah.
So we trial and error, right? I think that's one thing also, is like just recognizing, going back to what we were chatting about, how much you don't know. Like so much of small business and entrepreneurship is literally trial and error. It's like we have no idea how much we should delegate. So what are we going to do? We're going to delegate and see how this works out. And if it doesn't work out, what do? We change it and we try something different, right? Great question. Yes.
Wait, were you pointing?
I don't know. You had raised your hand earlier.
I did. It was for your question of like what aspect does like the relational aspect affect, and I was just gonna say, like you said, I think it translates to every single area, because whether you're in your office alone, like sending emails, or even like adding up numbers, like all of that will come back to people and how you're running your business, or caring for yourself, or caring for your employees. So that's just what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Awesome. You have not spoken yet. What's your name?
My name is Macy.
Macy, give us a great question for Bree.
Okay, so when you were learning how to kind of run a business, how were you communicating with the other employees to make sure everyone was on the same page?
We're still doing that.
I feel like I was just kind of thrown into this job, and then had his leadership and guidance throughout. But so yeah, I think I'm still very much learning day to day how to kind of communicate with the staff, especially because I am younger. So I feel like there is like there's a barrier where it's very hard in a way as a female. But yeah, day to day, I'm trying to figure that out.
How long was it, like you came here, you saw the building, you saw the place, and you intended to just coach, right?
Yeah.
How long was it before you became like general?
Like a year and a half, I think. Yeah, I started as a part-timer because I was currently playing soccer still, and then I transitioned to coaching a team, and then that kind of was like, oh, this is an opportunity where you can just like dive into this side of Genome and like really be fully invested, and so that was, I feel like, a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah, about a year and a half. Yes.
As a business manager, what do you say you spend like most of your time working on?
Unfortunately, scheduling. and staffing, and then just making sure they have everything that they're equipped for the day, today's things.
I think in a lot of ways, this is something else we talk a lot about, is the business is not static, it's dynamic. So it's constantly changing and evolving, adapting. And one thing that, I mentioned briefly before Bree walked up is that we've been growing at about 20% every year since 2021. And so when your business is growing, you're also growing exponentially in complexity. So things are getting more complex and they're not static, they're constantly moving, which is why, one of the things that we talk about all the time is like, well, we don't know what it's going to look like next year, And so I would view a lot of what Bree does on a day-to-day basis as she's almost like the traffic control of like allocating resources of both personnel, who needs to be where, what kids are in that group, what's the message the team needs to hear. Oh, that coach is struggling today, I need to step in it and say something. Like, there's not a script. Would you say there's a script? There's no script. There's no script. Which is one thing that I think a lot of people would struggle doing what she does, but also just in general. That's one of the biggest struggles with entrepreneurship. There is no blueprint. Someone else's success story in entrepreneurship will not help you be successful. If anything, it'll help you stay oriented to like, oh, this is really, really, really hard. They said it was going to be really, really hard. I didn't know how hard it was going to be, so I'm not crazy that this is really, really, really hard. But as far as like giving you a map to success, nobody's story is the same. So, one thing that I think we do a really good job of and that we've learned along the way is how obsessed you have to be with growth, right? So our kind of mantra is play, train, grow. And we care about that order, right? At the end of that order is the grow piece. If you're not completely open to constantly being challenged and grow both individually and then structurally as an organization, you're just going to die, right? You got to be very, very willing to adapt and learn and grow from trial and error and mistakes. So, guys, any guys got questions for Bree?
Favorite team?
Pardon?
Favorite soccer team?
Favorite soccer team? I actually don't watch a lot of soccer. I'm around it 24/7, but Arsenal was my favorite team growing up.
Why don't you tell everybody all the different countries you've played in?
I played in Sweden, Spain, and Denmark.
So you said you previously played for the Courage. When did you know that it was kind of time to transition out of the player aspect of the game and transition into the full-time coach and general manager and coach of the back half of the game?
Never.
That's a good question, yeah. I think I personally struggle with that daily just because soccer was such an identity for me. So I would say, yeah, it's kind of something I just struggle with. And I try to come to terms with, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and, like, this is my new passion in life, yeah.
Do you guys watch the TST during the summer? That big $1 million soccer tournament? She played in it.
I go every year.
Okay. Well, she played in it.
That's cool.
She beat Hope Solo's team. Yeah. Take that, Hope Solo.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or questions for Bree before she has to leave? Yes.
If there's anything you would have told your younger self to prep for now, what would it be?
So many great questions.
Where you guys are right now. Just like to learn a little bit more about the business side of things. Just because I don't really feel like I have the knowledge in the back of my mind, but just to dive into whatever you're passionate about, where you're at.
So one interesting kind of follow-up side note, I actually think one of the biggest contributors to the success of Soccer Genome was my own naivety. And what I mean by that is there was probably 100 times where a more educated, more specifically nuanced business-trained person would be like, oh, okay, guys, like, this is where we shut the business down. Like, this does not keep going. This is a mess. Let's go do something new. I was just too naive to know that it was time to do that. And so I think that there's this constant interchange and play between you have to learn, you got to be open to learning, but also recognizing, like, kind of like when I introduced Bree, there's, I think, a more subtle kind of superpower of when you feel like I don't know what I'm doing sometimes, what does that force you to do? Sometimes you got to work even harder. It's like, crap, I'm starting behind. I've got to work twice as hard. You know what I mean? So I think that balance between doing the thing you say you want to do offset by learning about the thing. Those are not the same. So trying to balance the learning with the doing constantly. Are you sure you have to go? Okay. Goodbye, Bree. Thanks for stopping in.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay. So yes, question. Or you just kind of, did I just catch you?
What criteria matters most to you? Revenue, impact, or transformation?
Okay, so I'm going to indirectly answer your question. Okay? I think that in the theoretical world, right, this is theory. We're not doing business right now. We're talking about business. In theory, we just broke down 3 areas of business. Can you give them to me again? Top line income, you said? Impact, and what was the third one? Transformation, okay? On a daily basis in business, do you think we bifurcate those things? Everybody understand what I'm saying? I don't know if bifurcate's the right word to use there, but do you think we split those into different categories? What do you think?
They look at how are we doing.
I'm sorry?
You probably take a wider view and just say, like, how are we doing as business?
Okay, yeah, so potentially tracking them as metrics maybe, right? What else? What do y'all think? Do you think we split things into those categories on a daily basis?
I would say like your impact your impact directly correlates to your income, and then that can correlate to how you can transform your business.
Okay.
I think they all intertwine within each other.
Good. Yeah, so that's more what I would go after. I think that's a really good question because I think would we all agree that those 3 things matter: transformation, impact, and profitability? Absolutely. Okay? But the reality is the only time that you're going to do that is maybe if you look at a dashboard, like a KPI dashboard, like look at those things in isolation, but nothing happens in isolation, especially in small business. So that's another, I think, important thing to distinguish from the beginning. Almost everything I talk about today is in the context of entrepreneurship and small business. That may not be the case in a corporate job at IBM or at Cisco. Does that make sense? So I would say the most important thing for us, if you look at our kind of mantras, play, train, grow, I would say transformation for me is the most important thing. I'm obsessed with growth. And I'm not talking about like business growth, like bigger numbers. I am obsessed with like I want to see that the person I am today is different from the person I was a year ago. How that gets played out daily in the context of work and business is it's all just blended together. You know, it's just all put in a blender and just power level number 10 and just blitz it up. And I think that's just the reality of on a given basis, any day is going to require different kind of components. Now, a good question is, as a follow-up, if we're not making money, right, to pay rent, pay employees, keep the lights on, how much of an impact would you say we are going to have? What do you think? Probably 0. We will cease to exist, right? If we only care about how much money we make, how much, what was it again? It was transformation, impact. Yeah, how much impact do you think we're going to have if we only care about money?
Some, but not as much as you could.
Yeah. So they're all, I think, interconnected in that if you remove one of those, it kind of falls apart, right? So yeah, does anybody want to push back on his question or nuance that question? I thought that was a great question. Remind me your name again? Kayvon. Push back? Agree? Yeah. Keep going, Kayvon.
You said you're big on like growing transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So how much would you say you put into marketing?
Not a lot. And so when I say not a lot, what do you mean by marketing?
Like showcasing Genome. Like
Showcasing Genome.
you have, like you said, you're recording right now. You have it online.
Yeah.
Do you make? I see the hoodies. So like, do you have like a YouTube channel that shows all of that?
Yep. Do you guys agree with his definition of marketing? What's your name? Jonathan, what do you think about his definition of marketing?
That's what my idea went to.
Okay.
Like just getting your name out there.
Getting your name out there? Okay. Yes. Kate. Right? Got it. Yes.
I also agree that's what the first thing that came to mind, but I also think about like, I'd assume, I don't know, because this is my first time here, that I think given that I've only seen this place passing up and down the street, you guys about it like word of mouth, if you will.
Yeah, we do.
So that's also marketing in a sense, but that's more of like the, I guess, glamorous, like money driven.
So let me give you a different definition, okay? So I would say what you are talking about is not marketing. That's advertising, okay? Marketing for me is basically the customer journey from I don't know you. I didn't even know you existed until I just drove by your building, right? I don't know you, and I don't trust you. I'm not gonna give you my money, right? Or I'm not interested in you. So that's the starting point. I don't know you, I don't trust you, all the way to raving fan, like, give me every program you got, and I'll just tell me how much I can spend here. So marketing is that journey in that spectrum, going from I don't know you to and I don't trust you to I'm a raving fan, my kid loves it here, I can't stop telling all of my neighbors and teammates about how much I love your business. And from a business standpoint, understanding the different needs, wants, and pieces of the customers at every stage of that game, every stage of that journey, right? So a person who's already a raving fan, are they going to have the same questions and concerns and needs as someone who is, I don't know you, I don't trust you? Okay? Does the person who's like, I don't really know you, but I trust you enough to give it a try, I'm going to come do a free evaluation. That person's at a different stage of the journey than I don't know you, I don't trust you. So marketing often gets confused with advertising. And as a small business, how would you guys think we should advertise? What does advertising cost? Money. And it costs what? It costs time. It costs money. It costs time. Do we have unlimited time and money? And so this goes back to, so there's two little things going on right here that I want to make sure we touch on both. Don't forget, you're talking about trust through affiliation. So you may not trust me, but remind me your name again, I know we chatted the other day. Kyle. Kyle brought his kid, Kyle's kid loved it. So even though you don't trust me, you trust Kyle, so now you're going to trust me and give me a try because of that affiliation. So that's trust. But this is a really important thing. So I'm picking on the word approve, and this may not be exactly what you mean, but I want to push back on this because this is really important. If you come in for the first time and you're going to give us a try because you heard Kayvon brought his kid and they loved it. So you bring your kid and you're going to give it a try. Do you think that you are going to rave about us and spread word of mouth if we are, kind of what you expected?
Not particularly.
No. So what do we have to do as the business when you come in for your first time?
You'd have to differentiate from competitors.
We gotta wow you. It's gonna be like, oh my gosh, this exceeded expectation. This was great. They were so friendly. They were amazing coaches. The environment was incredible. Like, I didn't know that this existed. This is great. We're signing up. Does that make sense? So this is like the measure of expectation. It's like if it's below expectation, it's like, oh man, that place kind of sucked. If it's at expectation, indifferent, right? So when someone comes in, it has to be above expectation, right? And then word of mouth starts to spread, okay? Now, the interesting thing about word of mouth from a advertising standpoint, is it more rapid or is it more slow growth? It's slow growth. Slower. Because you got to consistently deliver on your promise. But what's more powerful, seeing an ad on Instagram or on YouTube to come check out a business, or your best friend's kid is like crushing it and they can't stop talking about that business? Word of mouth is so much more powerful. So much more powerful. So that was a quick little kind of side tangent into marketing versus advertising. Advertising is like, I'm telling people we exist. I can do that through paid advertising. I can do that through word of mouth. Marketing is more about the customer journey. And again, that's my definition. There could be other definitions of what marketing is, but for you all, it's really important you separate those two things because they're not the same. And a lot of times when we think of marketing, we think advertising. Tell me your name again, I'm sorry.
Elise.
Elise.
Yes. I was just going to ask, so you think that the marketing would be like you're marketing to them as they're here, but then also in turn they're kind of going out and marketing for you, whether they realize it or not?
Yes, so I would nuance that a little bit more. Is it Riley?
Lincoln.
Lincoln, not even close. Is there Riley here? You're Riley. Okay, I knew it. Okay, Lincoln.
Yeah, actually, exactly on that. I knew about Soccer Genome. I've known about it for years because of the way that you guys use your guys' customers for exposure. I'd seen the Soccer Genome sticker everywhere. And I think that really lowers the bar of what it takes for a customer to trust a business.
Why do you think that is?
Because as they see it, oh, people are trusting this business and are even supporting it by putting that sticker on.
Yes.
And so whenever now I've seen it a million times, and somebody comes to tell me, oh, you need to try this out, I'm already ready to, I'll give it a try.
Yeah. That's great. So that builds that affiliation and trust. So alone it's not enough, but it's like, man, why do I keep seeing these logos all over town? You know? And it's like, the second you find out what it is, like, oh man, all these people trust that enough to go do it and put their logo on the back of their car while they're driving around town, must be legit. Now, we still have to deliver when they show up, and we still got to be legit. But it's a really cool way to kind of create a tribe, right? A group of people that are like, oh my gosh, like when you're driving down the road, like my kids get so excited when they see another SG logo, and we'll drive by and I'm like, I have no idea who that family is. Like, I don't have a clue. Hold your thought. I want to finish her sentence, her thought. Do you remember your question again?
I was just kind of clarifying like what you meant by marketing.
Okay, so the marketing journey.
Yeah, just like you're marketing to the people as they come in by building that trust.
Like practically, how are we kind of doing that?
That too, but also I was just trying to clarify in the situation who you would say is marketing, because you're obviously marketing, but also then the people who do trust you without realizing it.
So that's a great point. So who does the marketing at Soccer Genome? Evan, how's our marketing department?
Pretty thin.
Because we are constrained by cash flow. So who does the marketing?
Customers.
Yeah, they're also doing the advertising. So is it the same thing?
I think they can be intertwined.
There's definitely overlap. Okay, so where I would let me use an example really quick. Okay, so this is how marketing, the strategy of marketing, the plan of marketing, the roadmap would work when a new customer comes in. We already have this mapped out, right? So we know when a new customer comes in, it's like, okay, we need to build trust. We want to make sure they are seen, known, and heard. And we want to immediately establish an emotional connection. So when that new family comes in, we immediately have someone go greet them by name. Hey, I'm Coach Taylor. We take extra good care and pay extra attention to their kid in the session. So what we offer is we offer as a lead magnet a free player evaluation. So a player can come try out one of our sessions for free with a group so that they can experience Soccer Genome, okay? And we have like a 90% close rate. Like our business's close rate is insane. After the session, they immediately go see Coach Perry. Coach Perry immediately on the spot, make sure that they had a great time. What package would you like to sign up for? So this is going to transition to kind of a different part of the conversation that might be interesting to you all, but we immediately transition to a discussion of membership package. So for all of our packages, we charge memberships upfront, so they got to prepay for whatever they're going to participate in. I would say it's like 75 to 80% of our business is all subscription-based. So when I say subscription-based, on the first of every month, every single member is getting their credit card on file charged immediately, whether they show up to training that month or not. So if you're a member, you're getting prepaid. And so really they are repurchasing every month the right to be a member, if that makes sense. So in that new customer cycle of our marketing strategy, we just repeat that every time we have a new customer. So we have a plan and we do it. So that's not really advertising, right? That's like we know that this customer avatar, these are the experiences we want them to have, and so we try to replicate that experience. Now for a different avatar in the business, let's say it's a long time, SG family has been here for several years. How we're going to approach them is going to be different, right? So one of the things that we will unofficially do for a family who has been here for a long time is if they basically break, quote unquote, the rules, right? Like they have booked a private session, we charge $100 per hour for a private session, and the family doesn't show up. And normally it's like it's non-refundable. You paid for that hour, it's done. What am I probably going to do for that family? I'm going to break my rule. I'm saying, oh my gosh, like we totally get it. Like we're going to unofficially refund you that. How do you think that makes them feel? Super seen, super appreciative, because we know they've invested in us. So we're going to make an exception for them, right? We don't do that for just anyone, right? So I don't know if those kind of two analogies helps kind of frame your question a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's helpful.
Okay. The way, again, I try to think about the difference between marketing and advertising is marketing is the plan. And it's the customer journey from unknown, I don't know you, I don't trust you, I'm not giving you my money, to raving fan. All the different needs along that spectrum. And advertising is about communicating what you do to the world. Yeah. Question.
Okay, I'm taking this a little bit off.
Do it. Let's go.
Okay, so earlier you talked about being obsessed with growth, but you also shared that you got married young to your high school sweetheart.
22.
While also being an entrepreneur and starting a small business, how did you balance that home life and relationship aspect of things while also being present for your business as well?
I have no idea. That would be a great question for my wife. Yeah. The reality is, okay, I'm gonna kind of answer that question indirectly again. So I don't know if you all have thought about this. I think this is more apparent in other countries around the world, but you all realize like this whole idea of work-life balance and this idea of like I'm gonna go decide what I'm gonna go do with my life has only been around for like 100 years. Everybody knows that, right? Like, you didn't get to used to pick what you're gonna go do. Like, you would sleep, you would work, try not to die, and then repeat every single day of your life. So the fact that you even have an option to choose what you're gonna do is like an anomaly in human history. That's like the starting point. When it comes to work-life balance, I think what it comes down to, this is the way I would articulate this at 37. I may not be able to articulate this at 23, right? I would work 6 days a week, every single week. I'd work Saturdays, I'd work Sundays, I'd work anytime someone's gonna give us money. In my gut, I knew this was not only gonna not be my whole life, but I also knew like I literally can't do this my whole life. Like my body's gonna break down, my mind's gonna break down, and it's not healthy, right? But the reality is to get to do what you love in the sense of like you are choosing your path, it's gonna cost something. And so I would say number one would not have been possible without my wife's support. Like she supported me, you know? So that's number one. Was it hard? Absolutely. Were there periods of like imbalance? Absolutely. But the idea that you can maintain balance at all times is a completely modern idea. Now, from a biblical perspective, what I would say this is more counsel, than it is like, this is what I did. The counsel would be, ask yourself what's going to matter most when you're 80. You know, like this, if you guys listen to like business executives, folks who have, you know, both professionally and in just life have been very successful, right? Not just finance, but like overall they have lived a very good life. One of the main things you will hear across all of them, right, is that if you get to the end of your life and your kids don't want to see you, and you had a divorce, you're on your third marriage, right? Was any amount of money worth it? What's the obvious answer? No. Absolutely not, especially from a biblical perspective, but non-believers will tell you that as well. It's like, it's just not worth it. So the way I have framed work-life balance is I have looked and said, okay, what do I want to be true at 80, at 70, at 60, at 50, at 40, and I'm only doing things in my life that will be true at all those stages. So for instance, at 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, I want to have a great relationship with my wife. I want my kids to still want to be around me. I want to have a great community of friends. And so I can't sacrifice any of those for a material short-term win, right? I want you to be doing meaningful, purposeful work, which means if it's not meaningful and purposeful, I'm probably just not going to even do it at 37, right? I want to be able to pick up my grandkids and go up and down stairs and not be on 45 different medications in my 60s and 70s. So guess what I do right now? Open-ended question.
Workout.
I work out every single day. Yeah, every day. And so what I've tried to do is frame my life around like, if the most important things can't fit into my schedule today, then there's things I've got to cut out right now, right? So, you know, there's no Instagram on my cell phone. I've got screen time on. I'm checking my screen time every single day, right? Does anybody know what the average screen time is for your age demographic?
11 hours?
Yeah, it's like 11 hours a day. That's like the average. So if you think about it this way, right? If you want to be competitive in the market, and there's nothing in the Bible that says you can't be competitive in the market, right? There's nothing non-biblical about that. So being competitive in the market, just by eliminating certain things that all of your peers do, has immediately put you significantly ahead of your peers, right? Sometimes we think it's like we got to do more. It's actually a lot of times like cutting things out. Like I think a massive competitive advantage I had is I got married really young. I had no dating distractions at all, like zero. Found a great woman. She loved me. I loved her. We got married, and then it's like, this is great. No distractions, you know? No nightlife, no vacations, you know? I'm not filming myself on Instagram. Just like, I work, I study, I got family, repeat every day. Keep going, man.
You said your favorite class from Judson was great books. What was the most impactful book of those that you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Most impactful book. So one book that I really enjoyed that's no longer in the program is Pascal's Pensées. Highly recommend that. Pascal was basically writing tweets in the 1600s, 1500s, something like that. So he basically, this guy died, I want to say like 32. He created, I think, the first computer. And he basically, when he died, they found all of these notes he had sewn into his jacket. So he would like have a thought, he'd write it down and put it in his jacket. And so he was incredibly intelligent, incredibly rational, but realized that rationality has a very limited ends because we're humans. Humans are not machines and robots, right? Funny thing, highly relevant in the world of AI right now. Because on the rational side, the compute side, humans can't compete with AI. But the catch is that only is true in the world of tech. It's not true in the world of human to human, right? So Pascal, I think, was super insightful and ahead of his time. That was a big one. John Locke. You guys still have John Locke? Second treatise? I think it's the second treatise. Private property, all that stuff. Super foundational. Super foundational. Freud and Nietzsche. Some real light reads. Are they both still in the curriculum? You guys got to read Nietzsche and Freud? Really tough reads. But as believers, I cannot emphasize enough how important the pushback of incredibly deep thinkers that are basically shooting broadsides at the faith are. There's an amazing quote. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is not on the reading list. He's Lutheran. How many of you are familiar with Dietrich Bonhoeffer? One of the most influential writers on me. He has this incredible analogy and metaphor about the faith where he says basically the Christian faith is not meant to be, and again, I don't know how well this is the translation from the German to the English, but basically hothouse flowers, right? Hothouse flowers, they grow in a greenhouse, insulated environment and conditions. They only do well if what stays true? The environment stays controlled, right? What happens the second you put them out in the real world? All die. And his point is real Christian community is made to grow in the outdoors in the midst of famine, ice, storm, catastrophe. And I think that is so true. And so engaging with those guys who despise the Christian faith, so important and influential. Yes.
So, Kyle? Yes. So you started out as just kind of like you and your partner just kind of doing private lessons on the side, and then you created, Soccer Genome. That's kind of still what you were doing.
Yeah.
What was the primary motivator, and kind of when did you know it was time to do this and do the whole this is a set location where we do everything here, and then you said it was a giant risk at 26.
Yeah.
What was kind of the the motivator of we're ready to take that risk and it's either going to work out or it's not?
Okay. Great question. So there is a author that has literally blown my mind. I think Evan's sick of hearing me talk about this guy because I've been talking about him nonstop. The author's name is Nicholas Nassim Taleb, and he's written several very influential books. One is called Black Swan. One is called Fooled by Randomness. Another one is called Skin in the Game. Another one's called Anti-Fragile. One of the most influential writers on me personally. And one of his points is that the past for humans is linear. Meaning, I got born into this family, and I grew up in this area, and then I had these life events, and then one day, whatever it was, found out about Southeastern, and I made the decision to go to Southeastern. And so what happens when we look backwards, the path we took is very straightforward, right? The reality is, in the moment, you have almost limitless options. And so if you think about, I chose to go to Southeastern, subtly hidden there is what? You guys see where I'm going with this? I chose Southeastern, but what did I not choose? Every other college I could have possibly gone to. We remember the choice we made. We don't remember all the choices we didn't make. So I can tell you right now, at the time when we did that, we had no idea what in the world we were doing. No idea. It was like, we got to find a place to start training, because in the reality is, we had put ourselves in a position where through trial and error, we had started growing a business. And then we hit a constraint of crap, every time it thunderstorms, we got to cancel training. Every time daylight savings hits, we got to stop training. We only have a 5-hour, 6-hour window to run training outdoors because kids get out of school at 3:30, got to be home by 8:30. All of our money is made in that tiny window. So the reality is we put ourselves in a position that through real world trial and error and exposure to the pain of people are getting mad that we're training, what did we decide to do? What did we decide to do? Well, crap, we got to do something. Maybe we can find a building. Maybe we can do it indoors, right? Do you guys know the MVP Sports Factory in Wake Forest?
Yes.
So that was the first location we went to. They had a little space in the back. We put turf down there, and we were there for 3 years. And then 2015, we signed our first lease here. So we've been here almost 12 years. And so we did not know. Like, I could sit here and, like, I feel like the general story is like, man, we knew we needed a bigger building, and we went on a hunt for a building, and we found this building, and we made this building our home. The reality is we had no idea what we were doing. So I think that the important point I want to drive home is especially in the context of entrepreneurship, most of the time, finish my sentence, we don't know what we're doing. No idea. And so that's why I think entrepreneurship, is so exciting and so challenging. And it's like, y'all know the stats on entrepreneurship, right? Like, if 10 businesses start, how many are still there in 3 years? It's like 1. It's like 10% of small businesses. Yeah. And then of the remaining, so if we did it at 100, right? So if there's 100 businesses, 90 usually fail. 10 are left. By year 10, of the remaining 10, there's only like 3 left. Like, it is a brutal game, right? So much of it is about character formation and the type of person you are. Like, if you're, for lack of a better word, fragile, like you can't handle failure, like, do not become an entrepreneur. Because it's like 99% failure until that 1% something works. And it's like, oh, I didn't die today. And then you keep going, fail, 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 fail. And it's like, oh my gosh, something else worked out. And then fail, 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 fail. Question, yes?
I'm going to break my rule and ask a question.
Oh, please do. I was hoping you were going to.
So, let me give you an analogy. It's not really an analogy, my own experience, but to frame my question that way. So, I used to be big into scuba diving, 30 years plus, and I had 2 or 3 friends over the course of that time that were so into that sport that they wanted to start a dive shop. And they all failed. And the reason they failed was because, as somebody said earlier, I had such a love of the game. Bree said that's why I got into this. Well, they had such a love of that sport. They got into it, and what would happen would be, I'm cutting everybody a break on the, on the products and the trips and all this kind of stuff. Or everybody's hanging around, the shop and not buying anything.
Yep.
Because they're all like, this kind of stuff, but they're not really running a business.
Right.
They turn a hobby into a business.
Right.
And you turned a sport that you were into a business. You didn't fall into that trap.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of businesses, people that try to turn a hobby into a business fail for a variety of reasons. And I'd be curious as to, have you run into that?
Yeah.
And how you sort of avoided that trap.
So, really, really good question. So again, I think this has been one of the biggest insights that I've had over the last probably 6 to 9 months getting exposed to the work of Nassim Taleb is like, any type of cause and effect that I draw on has a very subtle bias tucked under it, which is the only reason I'm saying it worked is because it actually worked. But if I had made 1 step to the right or 1 step to the left, it would have failed and we wouldn't be here today. So I would say, from this context, divine providence. The Lord has kept us going at a lot of moments when we should probably have closed up shop. I would say if I was going to draw a specific cause and effect, knowing that bias kind of fuels this kind of narrative, is Soccer Genome for me was always solving my own problem. And what I mean by that is, when I was growing up, I got exposed to soccer when I was like probably 13, and I just could not get enough. If you guys go on the Soccer Genome website and click About Us, there's like a 6-minute documentary on my origin story. We had a professional film crew come in and film that documentary for us, and I basically grew up always wishing I had someone to train with and somewhere to train. And I would walk to, I grew up on Six Forks Road, right down the road. There's a big Southern Baptist church, Bayleaf Baptist. They have a baseball diamond. That was my soccer field. They had one little podunk goal where the net had completely ripped off. So it was literally just the goal frame. And I would walk there every day, practice by myself. I'd pray like, Lord, please send somebody so I can train with somebody. No one ever showed up. And what's so crazy about that is soccer genome deep down, I think the reason I was able to sit with the problem so long, right? Like your example, the scuba diving piece, is like, I think that when things don't work, you start to really see like, why am I actually doing this? And for me, the problem was internally so big that I was just willing to sit with the problem through decades of like, on paper, no success, you know? So like we pretty much, just to give you guys context, I would say the first decade of SG, we never broke the $400,000 a year threshold. So that was like a decade of just barely squeezing by. So again, if you think about your profit loss statement, right? 400 grand coming in, 400 grand going out every year, right? And so we had hit a constraint where it was like we were barely squeaking by. There was a lot of months where we were taking out PayPal working capital loans just to make payroll because we didn't have enough cash flow to cover payroll. And for me, it was always like, you know what, even if this doesn't work out, this was worth it, because if one kid shows up, like, that's the tailor. So it was always worth it. And I think for me, that's kind of the narrative framework that I would say is like, the problem was big enough to sit with the pain significantly longer than anyone else. I've had 3 partners come and go over the 15 years of Soccer Genome. And one of the things that's very obvious is like the pain of small business and the pain of entrepreneurship for them had reached a threshold where it just wasn't worth it anymore. Whereas for me, it was like, I have got to solve this problem. And again, this is me explaining it in hindsight. At the time, it was probably like a combination of like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I've already invested so much of my life into this. I can't imagine going and getting a corporate job. I can't imagine working for another boss. I can't imagine not having the freedom that I have to be home with my family in the morning and then go to work. I feel like we're onto something, like I'm getting validation from the market, but it was really, I think, just that deep question of like, I've got to figure out why I keep showing up and I can't quit. Like, I don't want to be the one who quits. So that would be the way I would answer that question. Because again, so this is another thing that is worth thinking about, right? I mentioned earlier that specifically this talk is about entrepreneurship and small business, really, right? This is not going to be the same type of questions you would ask someone who is a corporate executive. I feel like I may have mentioned the context of this group before, but do you all know what the word entrepreneurship means? Right?
Create, right?
Nope. Anybody?
Someone who starts a business.
Nope. Daggone French. French word. The one who assumes risk. Entrepreneurship is the one who assumes risk. And the reason it's, entrepreneurs disproportionately make more money than going and getting a quote-unquote more safe or more traditional corporate job is because you have to assume so much more risk as an entrepreneur, right? But if it works, the rewards are in a completely different category. But you have to sit with the problem longer than the normal person would sit with, which is why you don't just casually get into it, Question. I'm going to get your name by the end of the day. Give me the first letter.
L.
L? Darn.
There's a car like that.
Is there a car like it?
The president.
I keep wanting to say Riley is the problem. Riley, you killed me, man. Lincoln.
You kind of danced around it, but what characteristics or attributes do you value in an entrepreneur, and how do you build an entrepreneurial drive and mindset?
Great question. Okay, so what would you all say? Someone who has not spoken yet today. Raise your hand if you're interested in entrepreneurship. Okay. Remind me your name again. Miguel, how would you answer his question? What do you think?
Yeah. What do you value in an entrepreneur? Like what characteristics, attributes, and then how do you build entrepreneurial drive?
So I'll frame his question to you specifically. It's kind of answering it, right? What do you think are the most important characteristics to be a successful entrepreneur? Is that okay, Lincoln?
Yeah. Be disciplined.
Okay, discipline. Why?
Because that's what it takes to make something work.
What do you mean by discipline?
Going to work even when you don't want to work.
Absolutely. Good.
You have to stick with a plan. You have to have strategy. You have to, depending on what you want to get into, you have to understand your business.
What do you mean by you have to have a plan?
You have to, everything that you're going to do, you have to make it so, like, you have to write it. And
okay, I'm gonna give you an example. Anybody here had Steve McKinion? Nobody's had, Steve McKinion still teaches at Southeastern, right? Nobody's had McKinion? Okay, man, when I had him for Theology 2 or 3, this is what he would always do, so I stole this from him. Anytime a student would start talking, he'd be like, why? And eventually you'd realize, like, he would just say why, not because he cared, but just because, like, his whole point is he wanted to push you to the limit of your knowledge where you're, like, finally get to the place where it's like, I don't know. So if I push back, that's what I'm doing. I want you to see where the limit of your knowledge is. So let me give you a real example of what happened at SG about this planning thing, okay? We had a plan. We were going to be an elite training organization. We wanted to work with elite players, and we attracted, early on, I would say about 20 top-tier 9 to 10-year-olds. So at the local club, NCFC, one of the largest youth soccer clubs in the country, we had about 15 of these top-tier 10-year-olds, okay? We did an amazing job. We're crushing it. They're paying us money. This is amazing. And then guess what happened? They all got better. They all made a higher tier when they aged up, and now their cost tripled, their time commitment tripled, and even though we had done a great job and we did exactly what the plan said, we lost all of them in 1 month. So we went from saying, oh, our plan is amazing, this is working, we're crushing it, look at all these elite kids we train, to them going to tryouts, all of them making it, and be like, guys, every parent just emailed us like, we hate to do this, but we can't come back to SG. All of our club training times are the same times that you guys have rented the fields. And so for us, this was like an immediate $4,000 per month loss that we hadn't planned for. And what's even crazier is we had actually executed on our plan, and we didn't realize that if we actually did our plan right, it would put us out of business. So it's not just planning is an important attribute, right? You shouldn't just be like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna flip a coin today. But I wanna push back against the plan piece. What do you think we had to do at that point when we had a plan, we executed the plan, and it turned out that if we execute...
You had to see in the future.
Huh?
You had to see in the future what would happen.
Think about in the future?
Right.
Okay, but so do we have perfect knowledge of the future? No. And if you make a plan and everything you check in the plan is like, check, we're doing the plan. Like, look at all the numbers, look at all the metrics, they're all correct. But then all of a sudden, boom, unexpected thing COVID happens. Or all of our players leave.
Would you say it'd be a strength to be adaptable?
Yes, that's where I'm pushing towards. So plans are great. There's a famous quote, I don't even know if he actually said it, but Mike Tyson, the boxer. Anybody know his quote about getting hit in the mouth? What's his quote?
I'm paraphrasing here, but all training, all plans go out the window the second you either step into a ring or get hit.
What's the quote?
Everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth.
Everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth. Yeah. Huh?
He actually got that from General Patton.
There you go, even better. I love Patton. That's such a Patton quote. Such a Patton quote. So, yes, you should have a general direction you want to go, but man, you got to be ready to adapt. Because I can tell you right now, there's a graveyard full of businesses that had great plans, and because they couldn't let go of their plan, they're all in the graveyard. Does that make sense? So this is why planning, learning, researching, anything that is not doing trial and error is always deceptive and slightly dangerous, because you can have a great plan until it meets reality. And then when it meets reality, you're going to immediately have to be like, holy crap, like, we only got 20% of the plan right. We need to rebuild this. Here's another great biblical example, okay? You guys are at Southeastern. You guys realize that in this room, there is more theological training than the majority of Christian history. Like any other Christians at any other time. Y'all realize that? For the majority of time, like especially up to the Reformation, unless you could read Latin, so we're talking up until like 15 something, unless you could read Latin, you had zero access to the Bible. And you would show up in Germany to Mass and leave Mass not understanding a word that just got spoken. Okay? So, tremendous level of education and training in this room right now. And y'all don't even have your degrees yet, but you already know more theologically than most Christians throughout history. What's going to happen the second you go into a ministry setting? Yes?
Everything you learn is going to be challenged.
Yep. What if Miss Sally does not care about, believers' baptism? And I've been coming to this church for 55 years. Right? Or, what do you mean Jesus is both fully God and fully man? I think he's kind of just spiritual. And my grandparents helped start this church. So the reality is, what I'm driving home here is there's a difference between theological training in a seminary to the reality of boots on the ground when you get in and start serving in a real church with real broken people. Same thing with business. There's theory and there's study, and that has relevance and importance, but what really matters is when you start getting your hands dirty. So, Lincoln, we've said discipline, agree 100%. 95% of the time, you're going to show up, and you're going to have 1,000 more reasons why not to show up than to show up, right? Have to have discipline. Screw motivation. It won't get you through. Got to be disciplined. Having a plan, right? We're going this direction. You got to do something, right? Forward motion. But we got to be willing to what?
Adapt.
Rapidly adapt if and when things don't work out. Coach than I was at 23. And the reality is that if you can't be honest with where you're at, you're not going to grow. Along with all of the other applications of what you mentioned, right? Like, if I can't be honest with the the customers, if we screw something up, that's going to play out, right? If I can't be honest with what we can and more importantly, what we can't do, right? Steve Jobs has a famous quote. He said, you can always tell the level of someone's focus by the number of good things they can say no to. That's really hard. When you have great opportunities, but in order to stay focused, you have to say no. That's honesty. It's like, I can't take this on. I have to be willing to say what I'm not going to do. So this is actually really interesting because I think a lot of times, going back to the planning piece, looking in the future, a lot of times we think about positive action, but because there's so many options, you get decision paralysis. Anybody experience that? It's like, I have so many opportunities, there's so many options, I don't know what I want to do. Sometimes one of the most powerful things you can do is inverse thinking of like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know what not to do, right? I'm not going to do this, this, and this. And I'm going to focus my time into these areas. That's honesty, right? Anybody else? Character traits? Can you tell me your name?
Ben.
Ben.
Passion and sacrifice, how the two are connected.
Okay.
If you truly love something or someone, you're going to sacrifice for them.
Yep.
We kind of see that with Paul, where he loved the people of those churches so much, he sacrificed his time and even his health at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for that as well.
Where do you all think passion comes from? Because this is something you hear a lot. Follow your passion. What's your name?
Nick.
Nick. What do you think about this idea of passion? Where does it come from and why is it important? Because we hear it a lot.
I think passion can develop within.
Okay.
To be influenced by others.
Okay.
And I believe passion is also a driving factor in your career and what you truly love.
Okay.
And I believe you have to truly love what you do in order to really excel at it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think what passion is.
Remember your name again? Eleanor.
To kind of add on to what he was saying, and kind of like from like a biblical perspective, I think passion in a lot of ways is like kind of an outcome of where the Lord is calling and leading us
Okay.
to go. And I think the Lord gives us passion,
Mm.
and I think He gives us things that we're good at, like spiritual gifts, stuff like that. And I think He kind of, that's one of the ways that He kind of pushes us, like which way we're going to go
Yeah.
in our life, and kind of leads us.
So I think it's good that, so you kind of emphasize there's a spiritual dimension to passion, okay? And then if you were to summarize what you said, you would say passion is a combination of like what you enjoy doing in your work, yeah? Anybody else want to nuance that anymore?
What you're gifted with.
What you're gifted at.
Abilities.
Abilities, okay? Yeah, we're about to have training going on, guys. You're going to get to see it live. Come on in. Don't mind us. No, not at all. Who are you training with today? At Nexus, I think. Okay, so the passion piece. We got skills, we got gifting, we got the spiritual dimension, we've got an emotional component of like, I enjoy the work, okay? Anybody else?
Passion can be a work that you can do without pay.
Okay, something you'd be willing to do without pay. Okay, great customer service, Ev. Okay, cool. So where I want to push back with, oh yeah.
I just have another question whenever.
Okay, passion is interesting because passion, oh, Coach Kazi's here, guys. This is Coach Kazi. All of the business students are getting to witness firsthand our customer service, yeah. Evan just sent your session to Nexus. You did? Yeah, and then he just ran out to go get them. Yeah, so you're in the right place. You're in the right place, Coach. Passion is, I think, got something that's got an emotional component to it, right? It's like how you feel about the thing you're doing. And the interesting thing about passion that I can say is there's seasons you go through where you do not feel passionate at all about what you're doing. Like it's suffering, right? So understanding that it can ebb and flow is important because if it's just something that's like, hey, I feel passionate today. And then tomorrow's like, I don't feel passionate anymore, right? It's just very fickle. And so for me, it's like passion comes out of excellence. Like you have gifting, you feel calling, and you feel rewarded through that task that you're doing. Okay, you raised your hand.
Yes, since we're business as mission class, how would you describe this business as a mission?
Good question. Earlier on, I had mentioned one of our priorities is making sure people feel seen, known, and heard, right? I know that Lee in his talk a few weeks back had mentioned kind of how they express that through his business. For me, I've always been highly influenced by the story of Ruth and Boaz. So at the beginning of that story, right, when Boaz first sees Ruth, What is the context of that narrative? Anybody? Who is Ruth? Moabite woman. What else?
An outsider.
Outsider. What else?
A woman.
Are you the only one that reads the Bible in this group? This is crazy. No, you don't have to apologize. Yes?
She was a widow.
She's a widow.
She's poor, I believe.
She's poor? Okay, so she's like the most vulnerable type person that you could describe in the Old Testament. Yes, taking care of her mother-in-law. Even worse than that, she's a Moabite, like one of Israel's biggest enemies. And when Boaz sees her, his first step of compassion towards her is to do what? Offer protection and offer physical needs. So I think one of the most powerful pieces of business, in my expression of how we do business, is seeing the human, being there for the human, and meeting them where they're at. And that is not going to be a generic cookie cutter approach, right? It's not like I'm not going to treat every person I meet the exact same way. So the goal is to be open to say, like, what does this person need? Like, not everybody has the same needs. One thing that took me a long time to recognize is understanding my needs personally are not necessarily other people's needs. So don't project your personal needs onto their needs, right? Like, be open and available to say, what does this person need? We are not, we're not like an explicit, company like Chick-fil-A, right? Like, we don't have a Bible verse painted up there, But from a mission standpoint, I will tell you the depth of conversations, like I'm talking real life conversations, like players dealing with suicide, broken families, vulnerable families, players without families, like literally this is all they got. Like this is the one bright spot in their whole week. One of my big kind of prayers for the business is 2 Corinthians, where Paul talks about the fragrance and aroma of Christ. You can't escape it. You can't escape the fragrance. And so the goal for me has always been like, I want that to be palpable here. So yeah. So and it kind of goes back to the plan piece. Like it really is about like adapting depending on who I'm interacting with. Yes?
So going off that tangent, you just explained how you use this as a mission for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
As for the community, because you mentioned community is an important part of
Mm-hmm.
business, do you partner with churches? Do you do donations to charity? Or do you have like prayer times on the field, anything like that?
Mm-mm. No. Yeah. No, we don't do prayer time. We're a premium brand. Like we charge a lot of money for our services. So by doing that, we discriminate financially against a lot of people. And so, for me personally, I take very seriously like any type of rewards we reap. Like they're not mine; they're the Lord's. I have to give it all back to Him at some point. The concept of stewardship is so important, in my opinion, because I think when you approach it from the standpoint of